Hello and welcome to another tutorial on my student class. Today we look at how to convert a decimal number to a fraction. So that is what we're going to do. Example, if you have the number 0.7, how do we convert this number to a fraction? And that is how we do that. To convert this number to a fraction, first you have to notice that 0.7 is the same as 0.7 over 1. So you first have to locate where the decimal point is, that is the decimal point, and you ask yourself how many digits come after the decimal point, that is to the right hand side. Now after the point we have only one digit, that is 7. If you have only one digit, that is what you have to do. You have to multiply the numerator by 10 and the denominator also by 10. That is a way to convert the decimal number to a fraction. So 0.7 times 10 is 7 and 1 times 10 is 10. So if you look at 7 and 10, you cannot have any common factor that can divide 7 and 10. So 0.7 converted to a fraction is simply 7 out of 10. Let us take another example. If you have 0.8, how do we convert this to a fraction? That is a decimal number. So 0.8 is the same as 0.8 out of 1. And then you first have to locate where the point is, that is the decimal point here. And after the decimal point we have only one digit to the right hand side. So because we have just one digit to the right hand side after the decimal point, we multiply the numerator by 10 and we do the same thing to the denominator. So 0.8 times 10 will take out the decimal point and we'll be left with only 8, and 1 times 10 is 10. But in this case, if you look at these two numbers, 8 is an even number and 10 too is an even number. So that means that we can have a common factor that can divide 8 and 10. An even number is a number that is exactly divisible by 2. So we can see that 2 can divide 8 and we get 4 here, and 2 can also go into 10, we get 5 here. So finally we will have 4 out of 5. So this implies that if you convert 0.8 to a fraction, you get 4 out of 5. We can also look at another example where we have 2 digits after the point, like 0.14. Now in this case there is a decimal, but we can see that right after the decimal we have 2 digits to the right. All right, 0.14 is the same as 0.14 out of 1. But in this case, because we have 2 digits after the decimal point, we have 1 4, that is 2 digits. We multiply the numerator by 100, not 10, so that we can get rid of the decimal, and we do the same thing to the denominator. So 0.14 times 100, we get 14. There will be no decimal because it moves the decimal outside of the decimal number, that is the point outside of the decimal number. And 1 times 100, you get 100. Now we are not done, because if you look at 14 and 100, they are both even numbers. This number ends with 4, so that makes it an even number, and this ends with 0, so it is also an even number. And an even number is a number that is exactly divisible by 2. Let us try and see. 2 can go into 14 7 times, and 2 can go into 100 50 times. You can do it this way. 2 cannot go into 1, you add the 0. 2 goes into 10 5, then you add the 0. So 2 goes into 100 50 times, so you are left with 7 out of 50. 7 is an odd number, 50 is an even number. Of course, you cannot have any common factor to divide 7 and 50, because even 7 is a prime number here. So if you convert 0.14 to a fraction, eventually you get 7 out of 50. Now let's take more examples here. Let's look at the number 2.65. How do we convert 2.65 to a fraction? 2.65 is the same as 2.65 out of 1. So we first have to locate our decimal point. Here is it, 2.65. And after the decimal point we have 2 digits to the right. So because we have 2 digits, your guess is as right as mine. We have to multiply the numerator by 100, and we have to do the same thing to the denominator. Now when we multiply it by 100, it takes care of the decimal, it takes it out, so that we are left with just 265. That is what I'm saying. With a 2.65, if you multiply it by 10, it moves the point 1 here. Then by another 10, it moves it outside here. So that is to say, if you multiply 2.65 by 100, it moves the point twice, 1, 2, so that you are left with 265.0, but 265.0 is the same as 265. So to get rid of the decimal, we have to multiply it by 100 because we have 2 digits on the right side of the decimal. Now, the denominator here is 100. Now, if you look at these two numbers, the first number ends with 5. Any number that ends with 5 is divisible by 5. And any number that ends with 0 is also divisible by 5 too. So that means that there is a common number here, 5, that we can use to divide 265 and 100. Let me do it one after the other. Now, let me take 5. Can 5 go into 2? No. Let me add a 6. Can 5 go into 26? Of course. 5, 5, 25. So 5 goes here. 5, 5, 5, 25. So if you take 25 out of 26, you get 1. You add a 5, that becomes 15. 5 goes into 15, 3. So that means that 5 will go into 265 53 times. Let's also check this one too. 5 cannot go into 1. You add a 0. 5 goes into 10, 2. So you add a 0, then you have 20. So that means the final fraction that we have here is 53 out of 20. Now 53 is an odd number and 20 is an even number. If you look at the two numbers, there is no common factor that you can find to divide the two numbers. So eventually, if you convert 2.65 to a fraction, you get 53 out of 20. So let's take more examples so that you get the idea that we want to pass on here. Now we want to look at the example 3.72. So let me write it down here. 3.72. Now how do we convert this to a fraction that is a decimal number? 3.72 is the same as 3.72 divided by 1. Now after the decimal point, we have 2 digits to the right. So your guess is as right as mine. We are going to multiply the numerator by 100, and we have to do the same thing to the denominator, that is 100. Now multiplying the numerator, that is the 3.72 by 100, removes the decimal points. So that means that we are going to get 372 divided by 100. You know that you are not done, because 372, the number ends with 2. And that means that this number is an even number. And any number that ends with 0 too is an even number. So that is to say that 2 can go into 372 and 100 at the same time. So let's use the number 2 as a common factor to, divide 372 and 100. Let's start here. Can 2 go into 3? Yes, 2 goes into 3 once. So 2 times 1 is 2. You subtract 2 from 3, you get 1. 2 cannot go into 1. You add a 7. You have 17. Can 2 go into 17? Of course, yes. 2, 8, 16. So you get 8 here. 2, 8, 16. You subtract 16 from 17. You get 1. Can 2 go into 1? No. You add 2 to it. You get 12. Can 2 go into 12? Yes. 2 goes into 12 6 times. So that is to say that 2 goes into 372 186 times. And 2 goes into 100. You know that is 50. So you have 186 out of 50. Are we done? No. Because if you look at 186, it is still an even number, because the last digit is an even number. It is 6. And here too we have 0 here. So that is to say that 2 can still go into 186 and 50. So let us also try and see. Now, can 2 go into 1? No. When we add 8, can 2 go into 18? Of course, yes. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 2, 9, 18. And can 2 go into 6? Yes. 3 times. 2, 3, 6. So can 2 also go into 50? Yes, 25 times. So the final thing we get here is 93 out of 25. Now, between 93 and 25, you're not going to get any common factor that will divide both numbers. So eventually, this is what we're going to get. That 3.72, when converted to a fraction, we are going to get 93 out of 25. So can we take a decimal number that has got 3 digits to the end here? Because we've done that of 1 and 2. Let us also try this and see. What about 7.014? Yes, there is a decimal number. Can we convert this to a fraction? Of course, yes, we can. Now, 7.014 is the same as 7.014 divided by 1. And here, if you look at the decimal, where is the decimal number? Right after the 7. After the 7, we have 3 digits to the right of the decimal number. 1, 2, 3. And because of that, we are going to multiply by 1,000 to get rid of the decimal number. And we are going to do the same thing to the denominator here. Sorry, 1,000 here. Okay. So let's see what we are going to get here. If we multiply 7.014 by this, we are going to get 7014 without the decimal. And if we multiply 1 by 1,000, we get 1,000. Okay, are we done? Of course not, because 7014 or 7014 is an even number because the number ends with 4, which is an even number, and 1002 is an even number because it ends with 0. So let us see how we do that. Now 2 goes into 7. Can 2 go into 7? Yes, 2 goes into 7. 3, 2, 3, 6. Remember 1, you add 0 to it. 2 goes into 10, you get 5. 2, 5, 10, you get 0. Can 2 go into 0? Of course, yes. 2 goes into 0. 0. Then you bring the 1 down there. Can 2 go into 1? No. You add the 4, you get 14. Can 2 go into 14? Of course, yes. You get 7 here. So 2 goes into 7014. That is 35057. Sorry. And 2 goes here. 2 goes into 1. No. You add 0. 2 goes into 10. You have 500. That is 2 goes into 1500. So you are going to get 3507 out of 500. So there is an odd number and there is an even number, and if you look at the two numbers, there is no way you're going to find a common factor here to divide the number further. So 7.014 converted to a fraction, that is what you are going to get. So that is how you convert a decimal number to a fraction.